This is Karen with newclevelandradio.net, and it is time for Thoughts, Theories, and Queries with Steve Valdez. And I'm really lucky that you sent it ahead of time, so it's already on the website.
Oh, right, good.
And Steve, before we go through it, why don't you just tell people what got you interested in, putting these out? Because it's interesting to me that we all have these thoughts, okay? And we theorize things. A lot of times we just keep it to ourselves, or we wait to be in somebody's company to like spout this great information.
Yeah. It was odd. It was several years ago. I had just gotten reacquainted with a cousin from maybe 10, 15 years ago that I had seen forever. So we're texting each other, and I'm asking her what's going on. She's asking me what's going on, and it's just like two sentence answers back and forth, and then it got to the point where she would say, "Well, what do you think about this?" And I would say, and she said, in less than one sentence, give me an answer. What do you think about favorite baseball team, or car or truck, or this or that, and we're doing it back and forth just to kind of get reacquainted.
Right.
And then I started to say, this one sentence answer isn't cutting it. We need a little bit more, information.
Exactly.
So that started, and then she was, well, what do you think about this topic? And I would just say it, and then all of a sudden it would be a paragraph worth of stuff, and then she would keep asking more. We'd go back and forth, but she would say, well, you got a lot of theories about things, and I said, well, you're asking me, I'm telling you, this is what I think about it. And she said, we really should write some of this stuff down because it's fairly interesting. And I'm like, well, whatever, but we did that back and forth for months and months and months, and it turned out that I did have a lot to say about these stuff, and nobody ever asked me. I mean, nobody. And so I started writing them down just to kind of get an idea, maybe expanding on some of them. And it was right around that time. I remember your brother Gary,
Yep.
kind of had the Scrabble blog, and I thought, well, maybe I can, maybe I'll start a blog or something. So I tried it on my own just to kind of see what I could do, and I got a web, a site and all that, and it wasn't really working. And then I asked him about it. Well, how do you do it? Then he introduced me to you. I started the blog. The blog went on for X amount of years, and then you were the one actually that kind of got me to help me decide to do the podcast. So it's kind of evolved from just that to this.
Well, and what I love about your theories is that you do take a stand, but you don't take a stand that is threatening to your readers and listeners. It's like, oh, okay, so Steve believes this. Maybe I don't, but now I understand why he thinks this. And if we could do that in everyday conversation, we would have a much nicer world to live in.
Yeah, the last podcast we had, the theory I talked about was revolved around a conversation I was having with somebody else, and somebody saw the podcast and said, you really should have gone to, why people are like that. That should have been the theory, is why you can't have a conversation with people, and it's true. I mean, there's things around that and issues with that, why people, if you don't agree with them, then you're a bad person, kind of, that tack. And that kind of wasn't what I was going for. It's just kind of came out in that theory. But it's the same kind of thing, and I may do one on that anyway. But yeah, it's there's a way to talk to people and get your point across without being threatening, and being able to see both sides of it. And it seems like these days it's just so hard to get into a conversation with somebody before they can do that, and just without getting angry, without thinking you're a terrible person. These issues that are out now, and what people are talking about, it's like you can't have a certain opinion now. It's their way or the highway, and I mean, it wasn't like that before. And,
No, it
you know,
wasn't.
and you know, like I said, maybe that's a whole nother theory that we'll talk about next time.
Maybe. Well,
But
today you have a new theory for us, so tell us
I
about
do.
it.
I do. I have this on my phone. This is theory number 51, the beneficial presence. This one I wrote recently. This was probably my last one, the newest one. The beneficial presence. Here we go. My father-in-law, James Coulter, has always been one to constantly look for ways to better himself, to edify his mind and spirit. He reads insatiably, takes courses when the topic seems interesting enough, and is always willing to share his findings with his family. He's studied everything from ancient Vedic languages to the Higgs Boson in modern physics. At one point, he took a course entitled Existential Meta. It was a scientific method of teaching and healing based on the understanding that each of us is made in the image and likeness of God, as well as dealing with what reality really is. I myself was fortunate enough to sit in on a few sessions. One of the lessons is to this day one of my favorite sayings: truth without compassion is cruelty. See theory number 15. Another gem I got from these teachings was the concept of striving to be a beneficial presence. Not to be confused with a beneficent person, somebody who does things outright to help people. A beneficial presence is someone who, just by being there, makes their surroundings better. Someone who approaches all situations peacefully and calmly and lives with a sense of gratitude. It kind of reminds me of the Desiderata, that poem / life lesson that starts out, go placidly among the noise and haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. I think we all know people, have known people like that at one time or another. People that can walk into a hectic situation and somehow things seem to fall into place. There's something about the concept of good things happen when you're around that really appeals to me. In quantum physics, the physics of the very, very small, scientists hope that someday they'll discover how everything in the universe is connected to everything else through dimensions that our senses cannot comprehend. A beneficial presence could somehow work at this level, but not everyone buys into this idea. Some people have a hard time seeing how one thing can influence another without direct involvement. But even in our reality, we actually do see examples of this. Oddly enough, in hockey, the NHL keeps track of a stat called the plus minus. Every time a goal is scored by your team when you're on the ice, you get a +1. And every time a goal is scored by the other team while you're on the ice, you get a -1. At the end of the game, all of these are added up and you're given an overall positive or negative number. A +3, for example, means that your team scored 3 more goals than the other team when you were out there, whether you scored a goal, whether you got an assist, or had anything, you did anything yourself. To me, that's a beneficial presence. So quantum physics, existential metapsychiatry, hockey, all different ways of referencing just being a good person, being a team player. I remember in high school, in one class, somehow the teacher got on the subject of love. And he asked us all what we thought love was. Love is a great feeling. Love is intense happiness. Those were some of the responses. I don't know why, but I raised my hand and I said, I think love is being more concerned with another person feeling great and their intense happiness than your own. In short, just be nice. Everybody will benefit from it. Or as Bill and Ted say, be excellent to each other.
So the bottom line is about kindness, really. And, you know, as we talked before we got started today, we always sort of preach this kindness, and then we get out on the road and we're beeping our horn because somebody is going too slow or distracting us. We go into a restaurant and we know that most restaurants don't have enough staff, and we get angry because either they got our food wrong or they're not waiting on us. And yet, if we could just be a little bit kinder about it, and if you have to honk your horn for a good reason, you honk your horn.
Right, right.
Um,
Or you tap on it. Maybe you tap it, you don't lean on it. I mean,
right,
there's a way to do it, to get your point across, you know, a little less aggressively, a little less intrusively.
right.
You have bad service somewhere, yeah, if you want to comment. Doesn't make you a bad person for commenting, but it's how you comment, you know, the things that actually come out,
Yeah.
There's constructive criticism and there's deconstructive criticism, destructive criticism.
Well, there's this restaurant not far from us, and Rich and I, for some reason, it's become a regular on Saturday nights. And mostly because when we sit in the bar area, and even though we're not drinkers, but we sit there to have our dinner, there's two women who work typically every Saturday night. They do not move fast, but it's almost like entertainment, because they come over and they talk to you and they remember that you were there last week, and they may say something to the people at the table next to you, and then all of a sudden a conversation starts up. And we laugh about the fact that we can be there for 2.5 hours for just a simple meal, but it's all the activity that's going on around. And we enjoy that. I just have to pay for my meal, not for the entertainment. But there are others who probably could walk in there on a Saturday night and think, oh my gosh, all I ordered was a Diet Coke, and it's 20 minutes later, I don't have it.
Right.
So you got to take the good with the bad and understand, how life is happening. But
Yeah,
I
some
like
people
that.
can.
Yeah.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Well, I love the thing about hockey, because I never knew that stat. That
Yeah.
is interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, I've known it for a while. I love hockey, and a lot of sports, but I was always. It seemed at the time it was the only sport that had that stat, and I just thought it was interesting as hell. Just the fact that you can be out there and influence how the game is going without doing anything. You get credit without scoring a goal, without having an assist. There's a stat that gives you credit for being there, being part of the team when they score. So somehow you were involved in scoring, whether it was 3 passes before the goal is scored. You don't really get the assist, but you were part of it. And I always thought, because in hockey, you watch the game,
Yeah.
and for whoever doesn't know hockey, the people on the ice are only out there. The people on defense are out there for a few minutes at a time. The 3 offensive guys are really only out there for like a minute and a half at a time. That's it.
Right.
And then they go back to the bench, and then the next 3 come in, and they just rotate like that. So you're not on the ice for that long. But they keep track of what has happened on the ice when you were there. How did you make a positive influence? And I know coaches look at that too. Like, okay, who are my 3 that work the best together? Right. Maybe one person is the only one that scores out of those 3 every single time those 3 are out there. But when that person that scores is paired with 2 other people, he doesn't do so well. So somehow the 3 of them work together to get goals, right, to make things happen. And I thought that was interesting. That was great that they kept track of that thing, right? At the end, they go, well, he had a great day. He was a +4. He had a lousy day. He was a -2. And you think about it, and you say, oh yeah, I'm on the ice and they're scoring goals. So what am I doing wrong? And I'm sure they look at that and they work on that. They say, well, yeah, well, look at the film. What are you doing wrong? Why every time you went out there, they did better? Your team didn't do better. They did. So I think I'm almost positive basketball is starting to do something like that. Maybe they already have, and I just missed it. But I kind of remember hearing, well, he was like a plus 30 today, because when he was out there for 20 minutes. Their team scored 20 points, and the other team scored 10 points. Maybe he was a +10 for that.
Right.
But I think other sports and other areas are starting to get that, right? Starting to look at that stat, because it's important. It's important.
Well, and I think we even find that in our everyday life. There's always something about, if you're working on something, okay, and you really don't need the other person's assistance, but that, hey, if I have a question, I can connect with them. And so I know when I first started doing training on software products, I used to say to my husband, as I'm putting my course together, could you just sit in the office? You can work on something else. But if I have a question, and in the beginning, we'd be like, well, either come get me or whatever. And I found when he did that, it took me forever to write my courseware. But if he was sitting in the room and I knew he was available, I didn't need him. I knew what to do.
Yeah.
And he would say to me, well, that only took you like a half hour. But last week you were up there for 3-4 hours. And I said to him, there's something about just, you're my security blanket while I'm
Yeah.
doing this.
Yeah, that's
So-
exactly what I'm talking about. That's exactly right. And he didn't even know it, didn't even get it, never crossed his mind. But for you, it made a difference, him being there,
Exactly.
without any input on his part. You felt better him being there, and it made you more efficient. I mean, I think leaders, good leaders, great leaders have that ability, to instill that kind of confidence without just like, okay, well, I know this guy's here, I'm going to take care of my business, but I know if things go to crazy, this guy's going to take care of it, without him necessarily doing anything. It's just like your confidence instills confidence in others, without having to say, okay, this is what you do, this X, Y, and Z, and like everything's going to go great now. But, okay, well, he's here. So if things go crazy, it's a different mindset,
Oh, absolutely.
without, with a different leader, you're thinking, oh my God, this guy's terrible under pressure. He's terrible. He yells a lot, when things go wrong. That group has a different attitude, based on who's, supervising or managing them or whatever. So, yeah, and in a lot of ways, it's like that. You don't necessarily have to do anything, but it's just you being there, makes things better. I think it's a cool concept.
Yeah, it is. And I think if we just, sort of watch our lives over the next couple weeks and take in, what is the thing that makes you the most productive? Okay. For me, I know that one of the things that I do, I'll usually put it out there for 2 or 3 of my friends who I sort of observe in a certain area. Maybe they're my mentor. And I'll say to them, hey, this is what I'm going to be doing. And if I need some help, can I reach out to you? And, if I pick the right ones, they'll say yes. And then once it's done, they'll say to me, well, you never reached out. Well, I really didn't need you. Okay.
Right.
I decided 2 months ago that I was going to go on a clean eating plan. And I reached out to 3 friends who have basically all their life have eaten clean. And I said, I just want you to be there if I start to fail. And it's interesting because one of them said, well, you didn't have to tell me. And I said, yes, I did, because now I'm committed to it. And it's like, okay. So I think, like in sports and so many other things, those are the things that we hold on to. You're going to commit to something if you have that support.
Right. I mean, AA is based completely on that. The sponsor, he's not standing by you every day, every minute, watching you, seeing if you're, having issues or not, problems, and how you're doing. But you know that he's there. I mean, 24/7. You can call this guy if you have any problems. And I think before that you were just on your own and you were doing this and you were doing that. And now all of a sudden you've got this, kind of guardian angel there that's not there, but not there just in case. And your mindset just changes. Like, oh my God, I'm not alone. I'm not doing this by myself. And if I need somebody, he's there. I'm not going to call him every day.
Exactly.
But again, it's that same type of presence, without actually doing something, it calms things. It makes things better. Yeah.
Well, I certainly enjoy our Tuesday mornings when we get to talk about, your thoughts, your theories, your queries. for those of you who are listening in, I will have the website available so that you can go through and read any or all of them. And if you have any suggestions for Steve, please send them to me. I will make sure that we ask him his thoughts about what you're thinking about.
Sounds good.
In the
Sounds good.
meantime, have a great day. And is it going to be hot in California today?
You know, today we have this thing out here called June gloom. And every time, you know, right when spring ends, June starts, it's just overcast, you know, I don't know, 20 days out of 30. It's
Wow.
starting to get warm, but it's just overcast a lot. But you can feel it starting to heat up. Come July, it's going to be a scorcher like it always is. But
Wow.
we have this little respite in between that it's not cold, not hot, it's not bad. It's not bad, but we know it's coming. So pretty soon.
I got the weather report for my son yesterday in Fort Worth, and he was sick most of the weekend. And we finally realized it was from the heat because his body has not adjusted. And
Oh,
it was
yeah.
117
Oh my
yesterday.
God.
So I said, no wonder you're sick.
Oh, that's no joke. I mean, I drive a lot. My air conditioner is not that great, you know, and I really got to watch overheating. I mean, it's a big deal. You
Yeah.
know, you look at I've kind of learned to know the symptoms, and when something's coming on, I got to pull over or whatever, because you know, always stay hydrated, always have water and stuff. But yeah, that's a real deal.
Yeah. So for those of you out there, enjoy the day, whether it's gloomy or sun shining. And let's just make this a kinder world. I love it. Have
Sounds
a great
good.
day, Steve.
Thanks,
Bye-bye
Dan. We'll
now.
see you. Bye.